Hey everyone, we are back and we're doing something a little different this time. On Friday nights, Syfy has a massive block of amazing television. Yeah. There's Defiance, there's a new show called Killjoys, and another new show called Dark Matter. And we're going to review all three of those in this one video, so this is going to be kind of a long video. Now, if you're not fully caught up on Defiance, Killjoys, or Dark Matter, you probably want to skip this video until you've seen those, because everything we talk about from here forward is going to be a spoiler for everything. First up, Defiance, Season 3, Episode 2, titled The Last Unicorns. The episode starts off, and Daytak and Stama are arriving back at Defiance.
Yes, they're in like a Jeep type vehicle, and Daytak looks like he's injured, and Stama kind of speeds her way in right past the gates and the guards and everything, and they're all out there with guns because they don't know who it is.
And of course, it was the Voltans Collective's plan to get Daytak and Stama back into Defiance, smuggling sabotaged weapons.
Yes, and I kind of had a feeling Daytak was up to something when he went to steal those weapons, because he did it so nonchalantly, which is kind of his personality, so it works, but it just seemed like he wanted to get caught. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe he wanted to get caught so that the weapons were out in the open. I was like, well, maybe there's spy cameras in there and they want to see stuff. I wasn't quite sure. Did not expect little bugs that apparently eat ammunition.
Right. So Daytak gets busted, the weapons get confiscated and put in with the rest of the
in the armory.
In the armory, and they come back the next day, and the weapons have basically been eaten by these bugs. So Defiance is in big trouble.
Yeah, they now have like 0 weapons. That was basically their entire cache, and it's all worthless now.
But the VC didn't escape the episode unscathed.
No, they did not, because Nolan decides to go after them for some recon, but we all know Nolan, and we know he's not going to simply do recon. He's going to fuck things up a little bit.
Yeah. So Nolan and Arissa, they're spying on the VC, and they have this giant freaking, I forget what it was called.
Yeah, I forget what they called it, but basically it eats through the status nets.
Yeah.
So, like, their net that's protecting them, this thing chews through them, and there's basically no way to get around it except to destroy it. So they do.
Now, since Arissa is suffering from some major PTSD, she decides that she's going to do the run to blow up the thing while Nolan covers her with the sniper rifle, because for some reason she just can't shoot. She can't make herself do it. So he's covering her. And it doesn't go completely to plan, but overall they get the job done. They blow up the net eater. And take out a few of the VC men in the process. But while they are out there, they encounter Pilar, who has Daytak's grandson, Alak's son, and he knows right off that it's her. She thinks she's getting away with something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she was just overly hopeful, because she does seem like an obnoxiously optimistic person.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she's got a half-Castian baby, and she's out in the middle of nowhere, and Defiance is small. Maybe she just doesn't realize how small Defiance is and how everybody knows everybody, but it's kind of obvious. They're not that far away from Defiance, and there's a half-Castian baby, and, Alex's family just had a baby, and it's gone missing. Duh, of course that's who that is.
And Nolan makes it right away, and he kind of plays along with her. They tie her up, but she gets loose. While they're doing their recon for the Voltanic Collective, she comes in and mucks things up a little bit. But Nolan gets the upper hand eventually and shoots her. So we're left kind of up in the air at the end of the episode. Is Pilar still alive?
Yeah.
I thought maybe she was dead because they killed the rest of the Macaulay clan last episode. Why not finish off the family in this one? But
there was a bit of dialogue at the end that made it seem like he's not sure if he killed her or not. So, who knows?
A couple of other minor things that happen in the episode. Stama is flirting with Tefkin at the Need Want.
Yes, she approaches him in like the market, and just like right off the bat goes right to him. She knows what he is. Obviously, all the Voltans know what the Olmecs are, but she's not afraid of him.
No.
And at first I was kind of like, well, maybe it's kind of the mystery. She's just one. He's in the community, so obviously he's been cleared, and now the mystery can kind of get solved a little bit. But Stama's extremely smart, and I don't think it's just the mystique that's drawing her to him. I think she's remembering all of these stories she heard as a child about the Olmecs and how powerful they are, and she recognizes that there's one in there, and her husband are in a precarious situation that could go badly very easily. And I think she's getting on his good graces so that regardless of what happens, whether the Voltan Collective wins or Defiance wins, whatever side they end up on, she wants him with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's her end game. I think she's trying to get him tight-knit with her family so that when shit hits the fan, he's helping her.
And we do get a sneak peek of next week's episode, and it's just a line of dialogue from Stama where she's talking to Daytag, and she goes, "Don't worry, honey, I'll think about you the whole time." And I'm like, oh man, what does that mean? So Stama's got a plan. I'm looking forward to seeing how that shakes out. And so we're just left with a couple of questions at the end of this episode. Can Irissa recover from her PTSD?
Yeah, because right now she is a hindrance to Nolan. If she can't, she needs to step back. She needs to stop going with him. They're not a team anymore. He's having to worry about her too much. It's endangering both of them.
And he does call her out on it.
Yeah.
And her personality type is such that calling her out on it is actually the right thing to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it would be counterproductive to do that. For Irissa, that's what she needs. Also, is Pilar still alive? And finally, how is Defiance as a whole going to defend itself against the VC now that they have no weapons? Okay, next up, Killjoys, Season 1, Episode 1, titled Bangarang. Kind of a callback to the old Robin Williams Peter Pan movie, Hook.
This show actually has a lot of references to other sci-fi shows, which was kind of awesome. Yeah. It's a bunch of planets, and there's different organizations that have control, and one of them's called The Company, which
much like Alien.
Much like Alien.
Weyland-Yutani, it's just called The Company.
Unfortunately, we didn't write down all of these, but there were a few where we're like, oh, that's from such and such. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And overall, the show has kind of a Firefly kind of a feel.
Yes, it is very space western, and you've got this ship with the not so good guys, but good guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very, very Firefly-esque.
And Dutch reminds me a lot of River from Firefly.
Yes,
Dutch
I got that too.
is the lead female character, and she has kind of this mysterious past where she's been trained, and she's an expert martial artist, an expert marksman, all these skills and stuff, but we don't really know how she acquired them, why she was trained, and apparently she escaped from these people who trained her, or she's on
She thinks she escaped anyway.
Or she seems like she's on the run from them. So she seems a lot like River in this scenario.
And also they have a little scene where she's a child, and the guy who trained her hands her a red box and says, every time you get a red box, it's an assignment, and there's a blade in there, and then it flashes over to a guy tied to a chair, so you have to imagine, as a child, she killed this guy.
Yeah.
And so that was very River-esque, as taken as a child, trained as a child to do terrible things, and she is just a badass.
Our two main characters are Johnny and his boss/partner Dutch. And they are reclamation agents, which essentially amounts to bounty hunters.
Except instead of going after people who have jumped bail, they go after people who have warrants. So it's almost as if the police have been privatized, and this is one company who has reclamation agents who go and bring back these warrants so that they can face trial or whatever. And there's different levels, and the highest one being level 5, which is an automatic execution kill. So instead of bringing those back, they go out, they kill that person, bring back proof of kill, and then they can get their money for it.
Now, the first episode centers around Johnny trying to free his brother Davin, I think his name was. They called him Dav for short. I'm pretty sure it's short for Davin. And Davin has a kill warrant against him.
Yeah, he has a level 5 warrant.
But Johnny's there trying to help him escape, and he kind of infiltrates this underground MMA organization.
Yeah, it seemed to me that it's a ship, and in order for people to pay for passage, they can fight. That's one of the ways they can go from planet to planet. So it's like kind of the poor man's way of getting off of their home planet, because I imagine that space travel is rather expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do is you can fight for it, and the more wins you have, the more you pay off your debt. But it's kind of also a spiraling cycle, because the more wins you have, or the more you fight,
and the more popular you are as a fighter.
Yeah, the more debt you're accumulating, because they're adding on all these costs. And not only that, even if you're on there and you're not so good, you have to win in order for it to go towards your debt. But as you're fighting, you're traveling in space. So you're accumulating debt just being on the ship.
They're charging you for the distance traveled, the food, the lodging, everything.
Yeah.
So it basically amounts to permanent indentured servitude if you're a good enough fighter, which Davin explains to Johnny later. He's like, look, Johnny, you need to lose this fight. You need to let me kick your ass right now.
Yeah.
Because if you win, you're never getting off the ship.
Yeah.
But Dutch saves the day.
Yes.
So to get the warrant lifted from Dav, they decide to take on a bigger fish. The company has put out a warrant on this guy who stole some very important information. So they're like, well, if we can get that back, we can convince the company to lift the warrant off of Davin.
Yes, and so they have this big elaborate plan. No use really going over everything for it. They kill the guy, they get the data chip, and they turn that into the company. And they do lift the warrant, but that isn't the end of it. Dutch ends up having to go and have a hearing at the reclamation agency. Now, she does get away with it, but the guy interviewing her made it seem like she's lucky and that she could have been executed because she had a kill warrant. And she took so long to execute it, and she actually went around it and got rid of it. You know, this is a privatized company. That's not good for business.
Yeah, it makes them look bad.
Yeah.
But the big thing that happened in this episode is while they're trying to recover this information, Dutch gets poisoned. And while she's trying to get to the kitchen so she can mix up a cure, she encounters her old trainer.
Yes. And I believe that he was actually there. They kind of play with maybe it was a hallucination, maybe it wasn't, but she does wake up with the antidote in her chest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think he was there. I don't think she hallucinated him. I think he was actually there. But I know during the episode she wasn't quite sure. She wasn't sure. And I know she was hoping he wasn't there.
But at the very, very end, she goes back to her quarters and there's
a red box.
The red box sitting on her bed. So we do find out, in fact, he was there and she has a new assignment.
Yes. And they had a little dialogue where she had said, something along the lines of, I got away from you. And he said, no, I let you think you did.
Yeah.
So, she thinks she's escaped him. And he's like, no, I've had eyes on you the entire time you've been gone. You have not escaped. I've just been biding my time.
Yeah.
So that'll be really interesting come next episode.
And I think that's going to be a thread throughout at least this season, if not the entire series, of her trying to finally get away from her past.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Dark Matter, Season 1, Episode 2, titled Episode 2. That's actually really witty because the crew of the ship, they wake up out of stasis and they have no idea who they are. Yeah. So they assign themselves names, and the name is the number in the order that they woke up. So there's 1 who is
the first person to awake.
2 is the second person to awake.
And so on.
And so on. Now, 2 kind of takes charge.
Yeah, 2 does take charge. And what I really like about the show is that there are 4 male crewmen and 2 female, and then you have the android, which I don't count. The android is given a female body, but it's an android. It's non-gendered. So I like that there's 4 men and 2 females, and one of the females is the one who's running everything. That's fantastic, because that doesn't happen a lot in a show. If you have more men on the cast than females, typically there's a man running it. And that's not the case. It's this woman, and nobody's really even challenged her so far.
And really, I mean, they have the female captain, 2, and the other female character, 5, is probably the most interesting character on the show. Because everybody has lost their memories, except 5. 5 has the memories of everybody else, but she doesn't know which memory goes to which person. So at the end of the first episode, the android is able to recover some of the data from the ship because it's almost all been wiped, or it's corrupted or something. Somebody's sabotaged the data, the histories. Apparently they don't have Google. But she's able to recover some of it, their personnel profiles, and they find out that this mythical alien race that these miners were so afraid of
It's actually them.
It's actually them. They're not aliens. It's just this group of people who everywhere they go, mayhem and massacre ensues.
Yeah.
And they're all wanted. They're all pirates and murderers and rapists and thieves and terrible, terrible people. But since they don't have their memories, it's like they've got a reboot.
Yeah.
They're different personalities are emerging, and only one of them really seems to be okay with finding out what they used to be.
Yeah.
And that's 3, right? I think it's 3.
I think it's 3.
Yeah, because one is the kind of a genuinely good guy. He really, really wants to help out. 2 is the female who takes charge, and she is an ultimate badass. I love 2. 3 is a total asshole. 4 is the Asian guy he's the sword master. 5 is the girl who has everybody's memories, and 6 is the pilot.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, it is 3 who's kind of the one who's okay with everything. Like, so we
and
speak
this one does feel a lot like Firefly as well. Like 3 would be Jane.
Yeah. 3 would be Jane, definitely.
That's how the end of the first episode went. So we begin the second episode, and they're still trying to decide what they should do. Should we help these miners, or should we just, cut bait and run? And ultimately, the choice is kind of made for them.
Yeah, it's kind of split 50-50. They do it democratically. They all vote, and it's kind of split 50-50 of people who want to just cut tail and leave, keep the weapons for themselves, and people who want to at least give them weapons. And so number 2 decides to make kind of a in the middle. And she says, okay, so we're going to give them half of the weapons, and then we're going to leave. Mm-hmm. So she sends basically all the men. She sends them all down to dump half the weapons, and then they're supposed to come right back up. But of course, the colony wants to thank them, so they have, they have a couple of drinks, a little celebration. The company who hired them arrives, and they send down a shuttle to wipe out the mining colony.
But while the guys are all down on the planet defending the mining colony, 2 takes her ship and goes to the next company down the way a little bit and brings them back. And she orchestrates a deal on behalf of the mining colony to give the other company rights.
Yeah, 2 is very, very smart.
She's very forward-thinking.
Yeah, she was like, well, you can't just fight this company. That's not going to do anything. They'll just keep sending more men. What you have to do is, they aren't the only company who wants this asteroid. So you get one of the people from one of the other companies involved, and now have the companies fighting each other, and it will protect the colony on the planet.
And that kind of wraps up the story of the first 2 episodes, which is all we've gotten so far. So I think as the series develops, the mercenaries, they're going to become, more like the A-Team, where they do good as opposed to, being evil fuckers.
Yeah. What was really interesting to me is that when they got these files, they were given their names, and none of them chose to take their name.
Right.
They all are still referring to each other by their number and not by the name. In fact, the android calls to Portia, and she's like, I'm not letting a file in the computer tell me who I am. You will call me 2.
Yeah. And
so, that was really important, because they are basically all, even the asshole who kind of fits his original personality, they all are kind of disregarding their previous self and embracing this new self. They don't want to necessarily be who they were.
Right.
So that's really interesting.
And at the end of the episode, 2 and 5 have a conversation, and 5 confides in 2 that she remembers uploading the virus that deleted everyone's memories. But of course, because she has everyone's memories, she doesn't know who that memory belongs
Yeah,
to.
she doesn't know if it's her who did it or if it's one of the others who did it.
Yeah.
But that, I think that is going to be the main focus of this season, is they're going to be trying to figure out who among them uploaded the virus, and not only who uploaded it,
Why?
but why? Who paid them to upload this virus, or what was their reasoning? Why did they do it?
I'm really enjoying Dark Matter. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one progresses. It seems like everything Syfy is putting out right now is kind of an ode to Firefly.
Yeah, it is.
Which is really awesome.
Because Killjoys and Dark Matter both have a very Firefly feel.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. This was a really, really long video, and our Friday sci-fi reviews are going to be pretty long because we're going to be reviewing 3 shows every Friday night until, the end of the season.
If you've seen any of these shows, feel free to write in the comments your opinions. What are you thinking of it? Killjoys, that's episode 1. What did you think of the pilot episode? Dark Matter, have you seen both the episodes? What are you thinking so far? And of course, Defiance. How are you enjoying Defiance this season so far?
Let us know in the comments, and also be sure to like and subscribe.
And on Fridays, we do a Topic of the Week video, and we always need topics for those. So if you have a suggestion, put that down in the comments below. We will look through all of them, choose the one we think we can make the best video for, and that's what we will post on Friday.
Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time.